magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number.
Welcome to the second episode of 3 is a Magic Number, a series of interviews with inspiring individuals who will be sharing 3 bits of advice, 3 bits of music, art, photography, or whatever they choose. This episode, our guest is Dean Chalkley, highly regarded as one of the UK's best culture-based photographers, the number one choice for major recording artists, record labels and clothing brands. Dean's known for his iconic shots of the likes of Jay-Z, Daft Punk, Amy Winehouse, Faithless, Tricky, Grace Jones and loads more on top of that. As a fashion photographer, he's worked with the likes of Adidas, Ray-Ban, Levi's, New Balance and Fred Perry. He's been a main contributor to the likes of Vanity Fair, Dazed and Confused, The Observer and the Sunday Times magazine. Not only that, on top of that, he's published 5 photography books. I think I've got that number right. He's held over 16 exhibitions and won countless awards, including Outstanding Contribution to Music Photography and Portrait Photographer of the Year. The thing about Dean is music is a big part of everything he does. So he's also a prolific radio, club and festival DJ and a host and promoter of many of his own club nights. So welcome, Dean. Great to have you on the show. Good to see you.
Hello. How you doing?
So, Dean, you know, obviously weird times at the moment. We were talking about this when we were kind of, you know, prepping this interview last week. What have you been? You're obviously at home right now, which is probably turning into a bit of a, you know, makeshift prison. What have you been up to whilst you've been on lockdown?
Well, like for everybody, it's been unprecedented times, and you know, we've just kind of shifted the gears, I think, is the term. That's the term that I like to use. And so it's thinking, right, we have to do certain things in certain ways. And this is not normal behaviour. So what we're going to do is rethink the structure of everything. I've brought my stuff back home so I can function. And then the sort of thought process and just getting through it, you know, is a thing. I mean, everyone's frame of mind is different. It's a significant moment in time. I mean, there's so much, you know, quite frankly, terror and terrible things going on out there, and really, we've been told to stay in, and so that's what we have to do. But that's not to say that we have to kind of be like really down on everything. We have to still lift ourselves up, and that's why, you know, it was really nice that when you sent us a message to ask us to do this interview, I thought, you know, in a way, it's a bit like, but is this frivolous or what? You know, I don't want to be like upset anyone because there's so much, you know, stuff going on. But at the same time, it is actually really important to look up and to go, right, okay, let's look for the good stuff. Let's still think, how can we function? How can we improve things? How can we readjust ourselves and look into ourselves and around us and all what goes on? And it's a period of reflection and restructuring.
Yeah.
After this period, and I hope it will be like a small-ish period in the great scale, you know, after this period, we will have learned stuff that we then take on and we apply for the future as well. Yeah. So, but it's made me really reflect on things like, you know, things that I've done in the past, for example, because clearly, you know, I'm following the rules. You know, it's like, right, okay, I'm not going out. I'm not going out. Firstly, because of, you know, everyone says to stay in. You know, you're not going to get the stuff and all that. But at the same time, you don't want to kind of pressure the NHS, and you don't want to, you know, if you fall over and break your leg, that's another space you're taking up, and things like this. So I'm quite keen not to kind of do all that sort of stuff, but at the same time look in and think the period up to now, which has been a long time, you know, it's a long time that it's still been really busy. So there's stuff that I did before this period that people have fast forwarded all their deadlines and they need stuff much faster.
Right.
They want to then present that stuff quicker than was originally anticipated.
Yeah.
And other things where you know, I'm kind of going back and looking back through the stuff I've done in the past and bringing stuff from those periods out and then sort of representing them.
Yeah.
But also looking at sort of things like structure, and it feels like all boring stuff, you know, but it's like you're kind of, it's almost impossible to imagine how you could function before this period with all the other layers on top of all that as well.
Yeah.
Start thinking of what you need to do as a kind of creative person.
Yeah.
So far as like you're living in the past, present, and future all at the same time on all different levels simultaneously. It's like you kind of accommodate that stuff, and as you grow as a creative person, I think it enables you to take on more and more things as it goes on. So this is one thing that it's like a ladder sort of scenario. The way I see it, it is like being in a creative world. It's like if you could see the extent that the ladder expands into the future, you might not even take one step on that ladder because it goes progressively higher and harder. But step by step, you've just got to look at a few rungs up, and then that's what enables you to grow and become stronger. But what I'm saying is, in this period, there has been a shift of gears. It's almost like things have slowed down. You can sort of actually look at things like emails, for example. You know, sometimes we're getting like 100 or 200 emails every day. It's like, wow, and you're doing the thing as well. But now, very, very, very less. And so people can kind of actually look, they can think, they can breathe, and they can hopefully resurface in a sort of different way.
So let's start with the photography first, because you know that really is the thing, I guess. Well, you might not agree, but it's the first thing probably you got known for. You know, not that getting known for something is a be all and end all, but how did you kind of, you know, because we met years ago when we were sort of teenagers and stuff, and I don't think you were a photographer then. So how the hell did you get into photography?
Well, so it all goes back to when I was at school. I was interested in I was into the mod scene, mod culture, clothes, music, that sort of thing. So that turned me on to a form of art and design, and it wasn't like a fancy school that I went to. I won't go into too many details, but you know, it's a bit like when I left that school, I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer, even though I didn't really know what that meant. And I studied a thing called clothing craft, so it's like a city and guilds thing. So I was starting to learn how to construct clothes, be a tailor essentially, and then it got to a point where I was like, no, I can't really do that, you know, it takes too much money. And so I got another job, and I think when I first met you, which was back in Southend, and I mean, for the audience, this is where I switched the tables, this is where I started doing so what was it like?
Oh god.
But it was around the kind of, I suppose, the 1988 to 1991 or 2 period where we first sort of like bumped into each other and stuff. But that was a period where I was really shifting over. I started to get into photography. It really is a hobby, and it goes back to that thing that you were saying about in this period, people are starting to express themselves creatively like they might not have done ever before. There's nothing wrong with, you could call it amateurism. There's nothing wrong with that. That is great.
Well, that's something I really wanted to ask you is, you know, with photography, what is more important, the formal training, or is there a natural ability? Can you learn it? Can you learn it just technically and be good, or can you be really good without learning it at all, or is it a combination of the two?
I'm going to spin it round. You can be terrible if you've got great technical knowledge, and you can be terrible. And so it's the case.
It's like DJing.
It's so, and this is where it comes together. Really, it's so parallel with music, because it's like saying what makes a good photograph. It's like, well, it's in the eye of the beholder to start off with, really, probably. But it's like it can be a whole spectrum of different things. It's not like there's one holy grail elixir of life and culture that makes a wonderful photograph. It's not at all. It's like, what does it say is probably the closest thing you can get to it. What does it say? I mean, for me, it has to want to pull me in for whatever reason, and that can be a multi-faceted thing as well. You know, it doesn't have to be one particular thing. It could be a whole variety of different things, but it's got to reach some. And actually, even I'm saying this to you now, some photographs don't reach out to the viewer. Even they're the opposite. They almost push the viewer away, but they're successful photographs. So, but you know, it's hard to spot. But once you kind of when you see it, it's hard to define. But once you see it, it's easy to spot, I suppose.
I mean, do you know some? I mean, on the same point, really. Do you know? I mean, I'm sure you do, but do you know many photographers that you have admiration for their work and stuff, that you know have had no training and they've literally just gone out and, you know, just roamed the streets or wherever and just taken stuff, they've got the eye for it? Or has everyone had a little bit of training somewhere along the line?
I'm thinking about it. I mean, most people, I think most people, when they get a taste for it, they want to learn more about it. So whether that means a formal education insofar as going to do a degree, or whether it means assisting another photographer to understand the ways and wherefores, and even maybe rejecting that and then going out and doing your own thing, that can give you a perspective in that way. Because just continuing on from what we were saying before is that, so I basically gave up a job, and then I went and did a degree at Blackpool, and I studied there for 3 years. But the whole course was actually mature students. There was when they say mature, I mean, I think I was like 22 or 21 or something like that. So that sort of age, maybe. I might have been a bit older even. But most of the people on that course hadn't come from the school, college, higher education kind of route. They'd had some sort of life experience in between. So they were all there doing something because they felt like magnetized toward. And I think that it comes back to passion. You've got to be. Well, you don't have to, because if it's like music, if it gets you, you become very passionate about it, and then you feel that is the thing that you really want to pursue, I think. So virtually, I would say virtually. There was a few exceptions, maybe about 4 exceptions on the course, but most people had this life experience, and so we all had this kind of appreciation of what we had as well, I think. And out of that course, there's still quite a few people that are in photography and sort of filmmaking, etc. Out of that.
Okay, so that works for them. That's interesting.
In a variety of different ways as well, because it's not like everyone's interested in the same thing. So it's a case of following what interests you. And then using the medium to kind of express either it or your view of it, because it is a dialogue. It's not the thing itself. It's not the accent.
Yeah.
Because it requires the person who is taking the photograph or conceived the idea, because sometimes you can even have photography that is the photographer's not present, but
but they've come up with the concept.
Yeah, and so there's such a broad, comes back to that word spectrum again, of how you can do things, what people are interested in, and that's why when people say, is photography competitive as an art form or a place to be, to live your life through, if you like, it's like, well, there's so many different facets to it, and what I am interested in and I like is not what the person wants to me.
So there's room for everybody if they're good. Yeah.
I mean, of course, there's still within that. There's still certain people that are interested in certain things, but it is like that old-fashioned Venn diagram, 1970s.
Yeah.
Equation where
I love a Venn diagram. Yeah.
Yeah, but that overlaps, and it's like it's like going, well, okay, I like this, that, and the other. It's a bit like that, but at the same time, we're unique as a musical artist. This is my proposition is totally unique to anyone else because it's this, that, and the other. And so that's to try and understand yourself is sort of important, and where you kind of fit within that as well, your role, because it also comes down to people's personalities when they also engage with that, because some people can be quite domineering, or some people can be totally almost removed from the situation.
Right.
So it's how do you interact? So
do you when you're because in a lot of pastimes or professions or whatever, a lot of it is actually to do with your people skills and rapport and all of that. But in photography, but not if you're a painter, because if you're a painter and you're painting in your room, you can actually just be as miserable as you like, and be a bloody good painter on your own. So and if you're producing music at home, but then if you're producing music at home, you're probably going to get less people to listen to it if you're not engaging and there's not that kind of thing. In photography, is it important that you have a rapport with people? I mean, obviously I'm sure it is to get commissions and stuff like that because you're selling, but when you're actually doing physically the work, is it really important that you have a rapport with people?
Well, for me, definitely, because when we do something, it feels like everything else outside of that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
It's much more about this moment that we're in, like a bubble.
Yeah.
And then within that, that's where we create this, the result of this time that we are spending together. There's certain photographers, they don't even photograph people, so they might engage.
You can't have a rapport with a brick wall, I guess. Yeah, or fly over.
We're just going back to the course at Blackpool. It was a very good course at that time. It was a very, very good course, but there were certain you could almost tell by people's personality traits what sort of photography they were going to get into. Yeah. There were certain people which were a bit more quiet, and they were still more into still life photography.
Okay.
And they really like the control of their situation, and not exclusively, because there's obviously exceptions to that. But so I think it comes back to that thing of trying to understand who you are.
Yeah.
And see how you fit into it and explore. And it may or may not be right for you anyway, but you might even find that is a stepping stone to somewhere else. Like a lot of people at the moment are, thinking, well, film is a place to be, etc. I think everything is actually valid. So I'm not a exclusive sort of person. I think everything is valid. But but that's the thing. So, but going back to the question, I like to have a laugh as well. I'm not like too cool. I'm not a too cool for school person. I just want to understand about my subject, and I want to engage with them, and kind of like well, let's just do some stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you want to do some stuff. You know, maybe some people don't like to be photographed, and that's fine as well, because you go, well, I understand that as well, but I'm not here to make a kind of hard situation. Let's just do something. What about this? And how about that? And then before you know it, we're off on a
journey.
And I couldn't predict what we were even going to do to a large extent. That's not, once again, there's so many different types of shoots. Some shoots are quite rigorous. I kind of almost know where we need to go before we started to shoot. But generally, there's quite a high degree of improvisation. And sometimes I feel myself being a bit like, I don't mind throwing myself on the bonfire of embarrassment.
Yeah. So who's been your most challenging person to work with? Who was that, sorry?
The next one.
The next one. Good answer. I like that. You should be a politician.
Actually, I know the next one's going to be in, and actually she's going to be brilliant. So that's not true.
Well, we won't ask any names.
But
go on. Yeah, no.
Actually, it was like looking in a mirror then, Matt. You and me did the same thing at the same time. It's
a generational thing. We're too polite. No, you go.
We like never get through a door.
Yeah. Thanks. No thanks. So let's talk about your influences. I think that's always really interesting because, it's with a lot of creativity. It's about, it comes from the heart, but also you see stuff and you go, oh, that's amazing. I don't know what it is, but I need to be in that world. What were there people that you saw from a photography perspective that drew you in and really inspired you?
Yeah, very much so. There was a group of photographers they kind of called the New York School, and so people like Diane Arbus. Richard Avedon was part of that as well. There were Lisette Modell, another one. A whole bunch of them. And when I started to really look at photography in the first place, I was like, wow, these photographs just say something to me. I'm experiencing the life of the subject that is being photographed, but it's being done in a particular way that it's not just reality. Even it's a neo-reality, because the photographer has clearly got something to say through this work. They are showing something. That's the thing about photography. You are showing something.
Yeah.
But the photographer is part of this process, and so. And then there was another photographer, which highly controversial photographer called Joel Peter Witkin, and I sort of found his work, and this is probably, God, for the younger viewers, they're going to go, sounds like ancient, but this is sort of when the internet was just emerging. I don't know if you remember that far back.
Yeah, I totally remember it. Yeah.
And if you could see anything, it was on a sort of dial-up situation where photographs were quite difficult to see. Even
Well, it wasn't about images then, was it? It was just about mainly documents and stuff like that. So it's really hard. But you could see images, but it wasn't easy. You had to wait 20 minutes for them to load each one.
And so to find this photography that I'm talking about now is that it was trips up to London to see, to go to the photographer's gallery. And they had like a bookshop there, or to go to places like Foyles, looking in bookshops, but also Southend Library. Fantastic, really fantastic. It's sort of shifted now and everything. It's all a bit different, but what I'm saying is at that point, that was really crucial. But I found this work of Joel Peter Witkin, Andreas Serrano, and it really just blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is crazy stuff. And then I come across the work of these two guys actually from Southend. It turns out, I didn't know at the time.
Oh, really?
They're called the Douglas Brothers, and I just loved what they were doing. And I would see their stuff in magazines like Arena, and which was, for those who don't know, was like a magazine a kind of, you could say, a man's magazine. Well, I don't know what,
it was a bit like a GQ Esquire type thing.
I don't, and so it was, but behind all that, there were magazines like ID and The Face that were showing contemporary culture, but just going back to the Douglas brothers, I just really, really loved their. I didn't even know what it was. It was something that drew me to it. And as I came to know, it was like the treatment of photography, the cameras that they used. They used 10-8 cameras, which were big, large format, 10-8, 5.4, 35mm, blurry. I mean, there was a legend, whether it's true or not, there was a legend that they ended up doing like some advertising campaigns for things like Adidas and stuff. And they just went into the advertising agency with a bin bag and just tipped on the floor,
Fantastic.
I'm so happy to say, but years later, literally probably about 2 years ago, there was a retrospective of their work, and I just happened to go to the gallery, and I met them, and it was amazing. So
you didn't stalk them in Southend? You didn't find out where they lived and turn up at their...
By that time, they'd moved from Southend.
Okay.
They'd moved from Southend, and so they were up in London and doing stuff. But it was just like, wow. And so even now, every now and then, I'll send like an Instagram chat to Stuart Douglas, who's one of the Stuart and Andy, who are the two, and. But it's just a funny thing that they actually come from Southend as well.
Yeah, amazing.
They studied at Southend Tech, I think. I think anyway. And but just as a little backstory to that, I went to a car boot sale once, and there was loads of the photographs stuck onto a van. Yeah,
for sale.
Yeah,
amazing. Did you buy them all?
Well, I bought a couple.
Yeah.
And it was a big long story that anyway it was a crazy thing, really. And,
did you take a photo of all the photos on the van, because that would have been a good shot?
No, I was just there to buy all the goodies at car boots. At that time I was like, but I used to love those car boot sales way back in the 1980s. You could get such good things. But so at the beginning of my interest into photography, I just realised how the camera itself could enable me, like those photographers from the New York school, all those ones that were getting into exploring for themselves the bigger world that they found interesting, that was around them. I then started to use the camera for that reason as well, and so I found myself. So I photographed a guy who was a skinhead in Southend, a guy called Rico, and then before I knew it, he told me that he was a guardian angel.
Yeah.
And he would be on the tubes in London, so I came up. Right. I went round with them.
Wow.
And so it kind of said to me that it's like this is almost like a passport to explore culture.
Yeah. Brilliant. So look, on that one, there's some amazing references in there. I'm gonna put. This is one of the things about these interviews. I'm going to ask a number of questions which they're completely really unfair, really. The whole sort of what's your favourite, and as everybody knows, you can't really have a favourite film, music, book, record, book, or whatever. But we're going to ask you for one. So, what is your sticking with influences? What is your all-time favourite photograph, other than the ones that you've taken? Your all-time favourite image, and we'll take a look at it and then find out why, really, or if you could just tell us why.
Well, as you say, it's a totally unfair question.
Sorry about that.
I don't think in those sort of hierarchical senses, and of course, when that question comes across, my mind explodes with all the great images throughout history, whether it's by Kingdom Brunel, by the big chains, whether it's Corinne Day's fashion photographs, whether it's, but so the photograph that I would pick would be a photograph called Crossing the Ohio by a photographer called Danny Lyon. And as you know, it is an unfair question because there's so many more photographs, and when I wake up tomorrow morning, I'm going to think, oh yeah, I should have said this other one, and of course, but if push comes to shove, I would say this picture because to me, it sort of represents a rebellious nature. It's got a freeness to it. It shows culture. There's a structure to it as well. It's almost a constructivist thing with all these bridges in the background. The motion, the dynamic nature of the motorcyclist crossing this bridge. So Danny Lyon photographed this photograph from another motorbike at the same time. Okay,
wow.
He joined the Outlaws motorcycle club, and I think he was with them for about 4 years, and he photographed them throughout that entire period. He lived and breathed it. I mean, he had a motorbike before that. It's not like he had gone, today I will be a motorcyclist.
Yeah.
He did this whole series called Bike Riding, and it's it's a great series, and it really shows the motorcycle club culture. And I don't think, up to that point, it had been done like that before.
Yeah.
Of course, probably something like, I don't know, when when The Wild One came out with Harlan. I don't know when, I can't remember when that film came out. It would have been several years before. But as a photographic essay, I don't think it had been done like this before and presented as a still image. And that's the power of a still image. It's different to film. You know, film is sometimes a little bit like sugar. So far as it's like, oh, there's all this stuff happening. 5 minutes later, you go, what was the thing? It's like,
it's gone, yeah.
I can't remember it.
Yeah.
Whereas the photograph, when you stand in front of the photograph or you hold it, or even on your phone, I'm not saying anything is less important than anything else, different, but not less important. But when you look at it, you can think about it and you can start reading stuff into that. Now, whether that's what the creator of that photograph at the time meant is a question.
It's in the eye of the beholder then, isn't it?
Yeah,
really,
it is,
the viewer.
It's also how deep you want to plunge into it as well. You might just go, well, it's actually just a really nice picture of a bloke on a motorbike. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, when I look at it, I think, but look at his hair. Look at the shine. The motorbike is really, it's a beautiful thing, and the composition is wonderful, and it's got this feeling of energy and the dynamic. It says so much, and that whole series. There's some other pictures in there which I'm going to say within this period that we've been through. Magnum is a photographic agency that legendarily has had some brilliant photographers on its roster. You know, it's sort of an organisation of like amazing photographers.
Yeah,
Danny Lyon being one of those photographers.
Okay.
And in this period, they released this thing where you could actually buy a 6-inch square picture of a whole variety of different photographers, and it was a time period. I can't remember how long, but that you could actually buy, and then after that period, they won't be available anymore like that. So that's the edition. Do you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So like a collage.
No. So they're individual images from lots of different photographers, and you can buy whichever one you want.
Oh, okay.
Or you could buy a whole box of them. But what I'm saying is that Danny Lyon released one of his bike rider ones as part of that, and so I just couldn't resist it. So I had to.
I'm glad you did.
Hopefully, it's winging its way from America or something.
Oh, you haven't got it yet. It's on its way.
Yeah, because what they would do, it'd be printed. He's signed. And then sent. But they do it. They did it last year, and it's always a different set of work that is available and things. Yeah. To me, it was just a real life.
It's a lovely shot. No, I totally get everything you said about the shot. Really good choice.
Yeah, but the one that I bought isn't that one. It's one of the series.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
I did look at the other ones after we spoke the other day. before when we spoke about this interview, and there's an amazing collection of shots in there. Really, really, really great. But that one's definitely the winner.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's interested at all, definitely go and check out Magnum. Magnum. If you just put Magnum Photography,
it'll come up.
Search. I mean, there's so much great stuff. I mean, I think Martin Parr is one of the photographers there as well.
Yeah.
He was one of a colour photographer from the UK.
Yeah.
Who's prolific as well. He's part of Magnum. It's a very good thing. I definitely recommend people go and have a look. That's the thing, explore,
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about another photo. I mean, I was going to, as you know, ask you about your favourite image that you've taken, that's a really unfair question to ask, an artist or whatever, what their favourite piece is, for obvious reasons, because the answer might sound to the person giving it a bit egotistical, although it's not, but you said no, I'm not going to answer that. You need to tell me yours, and I thought, well, this is more about you, but I'm gonna do it now anyway. And it's not a because I looked at all of your Ibiza images, and we're going to talk about Ibiza in a bit, and there's some amazing stuff there, very kind of documentary based images of what was going on at the time when you were there in the late 80s, 90s. I think I got that right. And then I looked at a lot of your other, stuff that you've done over the years, and the drag racing stuff I really like. I think that's fantastic. But actually, my favourite image is.
You're going to show it to me because I might forget what it is.
So I'm going to show it. No, and you won't, because it's on your website. And if anyone wants to see Dean's images, they're all on his website. If you just Google Dean Chalkley. There's a lot of stuff on there, and they're all amazing, but it's the Daft Punk image. And the reason I like that one is, I mean, it's obviously very heavily styled before the shoot took place, I would guess, in terms of the sequin jackets and the masks and everything. But from a photography perspective, personally, I'm really into photography where to me it's about the light and the reflection of light, and I'm really into the reflection of those kind of really strong colours like mauves, pinks, and that kind of thing. And I just think that you've got the reflection of the different lights on the sequins, on the helmets, and it just works really well. And and also the way they're standing, the way you've made them stand, not looking at each other, but one looking that way, one looking that way. And it just totally perfectly captures what their music's about, which I would guess is the art of good music, artist photography. You look at that image, and if you hadn't heard the record, you'd probably go, I bet they're an electronic act making a kind of disco-y sound, which is exactly what they were doing. It was like modern electro disco. And but if I showed that to my mum, who doesn't even know who they are, she'd go, oh yeah, it's probably like some electronic-y disco band, isn't it? You just got it, you just nailed it with that, I think. So that's my.
Matt, you've explained it so well. I mean, I've got nothing else to say. I have all the pictures in the whole of the world, and you've picked one of them, which, now this is the fun bit, that I signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Right, okay.
So I can't tell you anything about it. But what you
but Dean, non-disclosure agreements have a limited time. Surely that's expired now, and you can. So let the dogs off the leash.
But the interesting thing about, I mean, I'm so glad you picked that picture, because I do. You see, I can totally reflect on that. It's like I do love that picture, and I photographed them before that as well.
Oh, okay.
I photographed them before anyone had really seen the robotic heads.
Right. Okay.
You'll notice that there's been an evolution of those heads through time.
Yeah.
And
because it was dark suits to start with, wasn't it? Dark suits and black suits, and
Well, the first time I photographed Daft Punk is I went to Paris, and no one had ever seen those heads, including me.
Right.
And so when I got to the studio, and I think it was Thomas Baltanger's birthday, or Guy's birthday. It was definitely someone's birthday.
Yeah.
A cake, and they bury a coin in the cake. It was super cool.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, break all your teeth off.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's like when I saw this, I was like, whoa, because I had no imagine. I just didn't know what to expect at all. I'm like, wow. And so to light something like that requires quite a lot of thought, because you don't really necessarily want to put a light directly onto like a shiny surface like that, because you get things called specular highlights and all that. And so bearing in mind, it was like, I was there and I had to, right, okay, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to think of this in terms of, it's like a car, so I'm not going to put a light directly onto it. I'm going to allow the light to wrap around and show all the things. But just going back to that second shoot, I mean, I do love that shoot. And do you know what? Those robots are fantastic to work with. Underneath that, they're all robotic and all full of wires and everything. It's just loads of robots. I mean, they are.
Were they nice guys to work with? Were they?
If I hadn't signed a non-disclosure agreement, I could answer.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not going to push you anymore on that.
Put it this way, you couldn't get two nicer robots than that.
As robots go.
very warm and incredibly creative entities.
Yeah.
Stop. I mean, we haven't seen the last of what they are.
No. That's for sure.
In any sort of way. That is a trajectory that is going to extend way into the future, and I can't wait for it. I just love their stuff, and would have seen that film documentary on them, wouldn't you have? That's excellent, and tells their history, and I mean, fantastic. But I'm so glad that you explained that photograph. You did, because I didn't have to say anything.
I thought I'd do the work for you. Give you a little bit of a break.
And that's the Russian roulette of someone picking your own photograph, or a photograph of yours. That's the thing.
Exactly. So, I mean, on that one, let's move on to music now, because I didn't want to give the impression to people watching this that it's all about photography. You make a thing of this on your website, quite rightly, that you everything, music's at the centre of everything you do. You're not just a photographist, you're obsessed with culture, and obviously music is a big part of culture, but probably music is the thing that runs literally through all of your kind of your work and your free time. So I mean, it's a bit of a weird question. How did you get into music? You don't get into music; it gets into you. But what was your musical evolution from? Talk us through the sort of early days and how you got obsessed with music.
Well, definitely it started off around probably when I was about 11 years old. I suppose is when I started to get the notion of music around me, and yourself that Southend. Southend. The place where I grew up, there was, at the time, it was very, there's lots of subcultures knocking around. There would have been skinheads, there would have been greasers, mods, punks, goths. It was very fractured, and everyone had their own sort of music, own sort of haircuts. But everyone really was very passionate about what they felt expressed them, and everyone was kind of felt like looking for being individuals, but there was a collective individuality as well. So I started to become very aware of all that, and I definitely started to get into the mod scene, and got to see a copy of Quadrophenia, and there was a book by an author called Richard Barnes called Mods, which was a perfect accompaniment to the film Quadrophenia. And that was a book, and I've still got my original copy of that book, Mods, that was passed around the school, and it's all the pages have fallen out now, but I've still got it. I've got another one as well.
Brilliant.
I've actually got it down here. I brought it along because I thought, I bet we're going to talk about it.
Let's have a look. Oh, brilliant.
It's that, And this version. Look, all the pages are intact.
Yeah. So that's a reissue, is it, that you can buy now?
Yeah. And originally it came out on Ill Pie Publishing, which was Pete Townsend's book.
Yeah, from Ill Pie Island, where they were.
That's right. Yeah. And so remember, Quadrophenia was released in, I think, 1979, and that book sort of accompanied it. So it gave you something very physical to look at, looking at clothes, looking at music, and all that sort of thing. So I really started to get into probably the more obvious sort of stuff in the first place, but then I really just got into it, and I began to school with like a cravat on and all this. But my school was not like a kind of a inverted commas posh school. It was a school called Fairfax High School for boys.
Yeah. I don't think there were any posh schools in Southend, were there?
Pretty rough, man. But that's okay. That's good. And so, but all around us, there was all sort of on the streets. There were people driving around on scooters and all sorts of stuff. So, it was really all part of that. So I got into the whole mod thing, but then I started to find music, whether that would be ska music, rhythm and blues, soul, pop, power pop, beat music, and then I started to get into jazz, and then like things like rare groove music, and then that's then obviously it's over a period of time, but I kind of evolved into appreciating these clubs like Chester. There was a club at Chester's that would play rare groove music with sprinkling of hip hop, which is all new and music. And there's DJs like Gary Dennis, Horace, Norman Jay. People like this would all be fusing this stuff that Giles Peterson, fusing it all together and thinking, oh my God, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Music is transporting me to mentally a place, and that was hand in hand with me feeling like I was moving as well.
Well, every night at Chester's was basically a night of discovery. I mean, we were listening to, because I used to go there as well, as you know, and you were listening to records that were, a lot of them were made before we were born. Some of the early King stuff. And but you sounded like you were listening to the most revolutionary contemporary music you'd ever heard, and it was a bit of a while before we knew how old those records were, and it was just before because that was just pre the house explosion, and but that was a revolution. I mean, house music was obviously massively revolutionary, but that little thing that went on there was massively revolutionary as well. It just got hugely overshadowed by house music afterwards. But but the thing is, obviously there's different levels of production that kind of give away time periods. But when you hear a track for the first time, it's new to you, and that's it. Like, so even now, like now I'm finding stuff that is 40, 30, 40, 50 years old, 60 years old that I've heard before. People are still picking stuff up, but reframing it, bearing in mind that Club Chester's, that would have been, there was another one called the Chicken Shack. There was another one, what was the one on the seafront? I can't remember what it's called now. High Society?
High Society.
Yeah.
And so all of that sort of stuff, all moving together, all with like young people. We're not talking about a club with old people in it. This is young people refining and defining themselves. There's the power of retrospect is an easy thing, going, oh, it went like this, and this. But of course, it was, you'd have like Jar Shaka would also be turning up in town, and would be like elements of this be like a little bit later on, people like Alex Patson, The Orb, things like this, fusing all that stuff together on new sound system, changing it, and like Italio House, and that's where we're starting to talk. Shop with Alan Tagg that I used to go down to and buy records, and whatever you put on a turntable, I was thinking, it works so well, I need that record. So I mean, you've probably got a totally different imagination of how that shop was to me. But when I went in there, it was like, wow, this is part of the journey. This is exploring through music. I might have heard that track out, but then again, I might not have. You know, you might be saying, "Oh, have you heard this before?" And introducing, you know, you're curating. It was a highly curated to go into a record shop, as it still is. And I go to a lot of record shops still, and I really love that when the person who runs the record shop says, "Have you heard this?" You go, "No," and I go, "Oh." Or you kind of grab a whole bunch of records and put them on, and you go, "Oh my God, there's a record shop near me called Alan's Records," and I love doing that on a Sunday. I'll go up there, and you know, there's a deck and whatever, and just roll through some stuff, and you're still exploring, you're expanding your knowledge and.
I mean, because you're sorry, but you're buying a lot of music still, aren't you? I mean, you're an avid collector because you're DJing everywhere. I mean, you DJ a lot of corporate things, like I think you played at the Ben Sherman party. You play at Red Rooster. You've got your own nights. You do stuff with Eddie Pillar. You've got a show on Totally Wide Radio. You know, you're out there all the time. When I last saw you, you know, you had a really impressively neat and tidy, huge box of 7-inch singles. You know, everything was like, not like my records, which are all over the place. Yeah, that was the one.
That's a small version.
Yeah, that's a nice box. And so I wanted to lump two questions into one, but what are you listening to now? And I'm always quite interested, hopefully other people are, do you have a bit of a method for buying music? Because, you know, obviously you've got online stores where you can download stuff. You've got stuff like Alan's Records where you can go in there in the afternoon and spend a lot of time there. You've got the mail order companies where you can go through their lists and order Northern Soul stuff. You can drive down to Gary Dennis's shop in Essex, or you can, you know, go to another shop. Or, I mean, the problem with buying music is you don't have to have a system, but I think it helps because it's all about not missing out on that golden opportunity of a record. So what you're listening to and what's your system for buying music?
Well, I mean, this period that we are within illustrates how crazy contrast it is. So 1 minute I'll be listening, like just before we were doing this thing, I was listening to a Chris Bangs mix that was from you know, one of his clubs way back. What was it? Let's have a look. Like a Special Branch.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So
like,
that would have been Chris Bangs, Pete Tong, Johnny Walker, Giles Peterson, maybe Judge Jules now and again, all on the same bill. Yeah.
So he's like, so how good is that? And you know, so listening to all that, but then I'll just turn on. There's another band I'm really keen on. They're from, well, they're kind of based in sort of loosely based in Sheffield, but they're called K.O.G and the Zongo Brigade. You know, and they're like Afrobeat, but contemporary.
Yeah.
And check their stuff out. It's just berserk. And Kojey Radical. You know, so then I'll listen to Amyl and The Sniffers. I've been listening to that band, which are like they're from Australia.
Yeah.
Currently, me and a friend of mine, we're chatting about doing a project that revolves around the kind of Sharpie scene that was out back in Australia and whatnot. But anyway, just then sort of that talks about that, then going into that band like Amyl and The Sniffers, and so that's a real sort of trashy, guitar-y, shouty version of stuff. So the method is to think of things, I suppose, in terms of, you've got to be a bit careful because I just like so much stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have to own it all, you know, that's really me. There's certain things that I really do love. I mean, I do love 7-inch singles. I do love the albums. I love the physicality of them. I love almost the unique character of them, even sometimes if it's got a scratch on it, to me it's like, that's kind of unique. I mean, it is what it is, you know. But that's not to say that I also don't love listening to Spotify, and I love listening to mixes, like house mixes and stuff. Of course, that's not a physical. It's not a physical entity in any way.
Yeah.
But things like Spotify, things like other radio shows. I listen to loads of radio shows like WFMU.
Yeah.
Out in New York. There's a guy called. He goes under the name of Dwayne Train.
Oh, brilliant! I love him already.
Yeah, Dwayne Harriet, and amazing like choice. So it will swing from some obscure Nina Simone track, and then before you know it, you're in the Paradise Garage.
Yeah.
I imagine if you're watching this, Dwayne, you probably know how you are, but I imagine you're on roller skates, going like with big headphones on. Amazing. Like he's great. And then there's another show on the downtown Soulville with Mr. Fine Wine. Totally different music. It's Soul 45. So he's been doing it for.
Well, they've nailed it on the names over there, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's for like 20 years, and he archives all the shows, and he's got an incredible collection. So I suppose answering the question, I have to be a bit careful because given the opportunity, I just love to have a whole house full of records.
What's your music wise? What's your worst guilty pleasure, song wise?
Worst guilty pleasure. Okay, I'm just going to reach down here and see if I can find one.
We're not going to play it, but I want to, it's almost like saying what's the most embarrassing moment of your life. But what's your guilty pleasure?
Oh man, I have many guilty pleasures because I'm talking about everything. I mean, I love it. I love it all. I'm not a big Fleetwood Mac fan, to be fair.
Okay.
Amanda's in the other room. She's just gasped. The biggest Fleetwood Mac fan of all time. She's just literally gasped. But I have to say, in all honesty, I don't tell Amanda. I don't really mind Fleetwood Mac.
Good.
So
all right. Well, let's. I mean, I asked this in the last interview I did. What name a track that, and we're going to play this one as well. So name a track that really influenced your taste in music, like a defining moment track for you.
Right. Well, now do you know what? I've got to look at this because I always get Amanda the wrong way. I always want to say it totally around the wrong way. It's anyway, anyhow, anywhere. Yeah. Right, and it's by The Who. Do you know what? So it's an interesting one, this, because listening to this record, it's like a call to arms in a way. It's like, right, you can do whatever you want to do. So when I heard this as a kid, it's like it gives you strength to think, right, I can do this.
Yeah.
It's all against me, but I can do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, there is an irony here, though, particularly as the period in which we're listening to it now is a period where we're locked down, so we can't go anywhere. So,
yes. It now renames some places, some.
But you know what? No, but I have thought about this. I've thought about this because it's like it is totally relevant. Because when you think about this song and you listen to this track, there's the first bit that he's saying, right, I can do this thing, da 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 da, and then halfway through, there's all this chaos and crazy shit going on. Wow! And then out the other side of it, it's like, I can do it. And so it totally is.
I love that.
So it has to be that one. It's a really okay. So the Who are a band that are synonymous with the mod culture and all that goes with that. But it's also like punk in its DIY feel. It's like energy, not taking. It's basically not taking no for an answer.
Yeah. I think there was another level to them as well, wasn't there? Because they were, yes, punk, mod and all that, but also they were very poetic. And they, back then when you used to buy a single and take it home and, just play it endlessly, they spoke to a certain demographic directly, i.e. a certain age of mainly male, to be honest, but they spoke to, you know, young teenage boys who were probably just, you know, at that time sitting in their badly painted magnolia bedrooms, you know, looking out at not a very nice view, and they just directly got into their heads. So yeah, it's a great track.
Also it does appear in the film Quadrophenia.
Oh, does it?
And it's where the scene is basically the main character Jimmy goes into his he's in his he's in his house. Mum and Dad are there, and on the TV program, it's within the film. You know, it's a collaboration. But the on the screen comes the Who doing this from a recording of a show called Ready Steady
Go. Yeah.
And
amazing.
So basically, Jimmy's there, and he's like going, "I love this," and the mum and dad are going, "What's this roll rubbish?" Because they don't get it.
Yeah.
And, but he's like, "No, they're really good. They're really good." Like, wow,
amazing.
look at this, you know. And so,
well, let's have a listen to it. Yeah. So we're going to play it now. Bang.
Nothing gets in my way, not even locked doors. Don't follow the lines that been laid before. I get along any way out there, anyway, anyhow, anyway.
Okay, so yeah, great track. And also, one of the things I was reading about that track the other day is that it was one of the first tracks that used the reverb guitar effect. So
right,
full of reverb.
Yep.
And then that was a big thing after that, wasn't it? So, all right, brilliant. Yeah, thanks for that. So just taking it a bit back to photography a bit. I mean, let's start talking about your DJing a bit more. Is there any sort of photography skills that you think have helped you become a DJ? Because, you know, you're a good DJ, you get booked a lot, so, you know, there's something going on there. And is it, and you've got a great record collection, is it, you know, do you think your photography has helped with that in some transferable way?
Because it all comes back to part of the whole, and you know, it's just saying, well, these are the things that I like, and so consequently, this is the sort of music that reflects that and is part of me, and I want to express that within a DJ set, and kind of almost evangelically, kind of show people or allow, you know, let people hear this stuff in that scene. I mean, a lot of the clubs that I've done in the past and DJ at, it is a bit like you are in a, not necessarily a crowd that are partisan to that music.
Mm-hmm.
Some are, you know, lots are, but also lots aren't. And so you're playing music that people are not actually familiar with, and it could even be out of their entire frame of reference. So, you know, I've had someone come up to us going, "Oh, what's this track?" And you go, "Well, this is James Brown. This is just, what even is it? I don't even know what it. I don't even know what is.
Yeah. What do you call it? What genre is it? What? Yeah.
So, but they love it, and so I suppose what it is, it's just going, well, I don't want to be like jack of all trades and just give people exactly what they want. I don't want to spoon feed people mediocrity.
Yeah.
Because I could probably, you know, like anyone could do that. What you've got to do is just go, this is what I like, and I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to like this.
Yeah.
Free your mind. And I just really hope that people still continue to have open minds, because when we were talking about those clubs like Chester's, High Society and all the rest, I think virtually every club that I really love the memory of, and still to this day love going to, because I do love going to dance and go to clubs as well. I enjoy it. It's generally full of music that I've not heard before, whereas some people just hear what they know.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm not really. If people have got that absolute frame of mind, like, no, I only want to hear exactly what I know. It's like, oh, that's a bit boring, because that's, what we were into, where we were going out to hear stuff we didn't know to expand our minds.
Yeah.
And in a musical sense. And with that came a culture that was attached to it, a progressive culture, whether that's acid house.
It was an education, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
It was an education, and you went further up the cultural, and there were limited outlets, so you had to go and find it. Yeah.
Yeah. But even today, virtually everything is available online. You can listen to things. There's YouTube, etc., etc. But if you get into a club and you play this music loud with a group of people there enjoying it, it's a wonderful feeling. It really is like a kind of religious experience.
Yeah.
It is. There's a collective of people having a good time. It's positive.
So this is a question I asked in the last interview. What record what's your kind of go-to get me out of trouble record when you're playing? But also, what's the record you play the most? The one that's kind of you're wearing out the grooves on the on the 7-inch. Your most played record, your go-to record.
Wow. Well, it does change. I don't want to wear the grooves out.
You'll have to buy another one.
Yeah, exactly. I do love the track that I like is by Wade Flemons.
Yeah.
Track called Jeanette. Is really, it wraps up, from a kind of northern soul aspect. I really love this sound.
Yeah. Okay.
I do really love that sound.
Let's give this a spin then. This one.
Give it a spin. See what you think.
And I've heard you don't really want to have to be going out and buying a second copy of this. It's not exactly cheap, is it?
It's not cheap.
I mean, we're going into 4 figures, aren't we, on this one? I think
we're at the top end of 4 figures.
God. Okay, so here we go.
Many a girl I met, many a girl I've known, but none can compare with you. You're in a class of your own. There's something so sweet about you that touches me in my heart, my heart. I just can't live without you. Now, girl, don't keep us apart, 'cause I've been watching Jeanette. Crying for you, baby, Jeanette. I'm crying for you, baby, Jeanette. Hey, I need you right now.
Brilliant. That's a great track. Right. So, Dean, we're kind of we've got a bit more time. So let's move on to let's get sort of down and dirty now and move on to Ibiza. So you spent. Someone's told me that you went to Ibiza 26 times. So I thought I'd been there quite a lot, and but I think 26 times is. I'm saying that's a hell of a lot, and it was in a short space of time, I hear. So come and tell us about what the story was there, and what that was all about.
Well, so it started off where I was doing some stuff for Dazed and Confused, and I met a lady that was working there, Paola Cimino, and she was helping Rankin, the photographer Rankin.
Yeah.
So she was helping him with a project in Italy. Then we got chatting. I also added into this. It was a magazine called Provate, and I did a shop for it because I used to do some stuff for Dazed and Confused at that time. Anyway, Paola then went to Mixmag. She was the picture editor there, and at the time there was a guy called Don Phillips. Mm-hmm. Great. Don Phillips.
Yeah.
He was the first. I mean, the first thing I ever did for Mixmag, I think, was go to Iceland with Don Phillips.
Was that was with Wall of Sound and the Propeller Heads, wasn't it?
Propeller Heads.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was a brilliant trip. I mean, it was fantastic.
I've been to Iceland with Wall of Sound, and I know what those trips are like.
We ended up around Bjork's house.
Did you? Brilliant.
At 6 o'clock in the morning, knocking on the door and going into her house. You know, absolutely berserk. We went on an elf hunt. Anyway, to find the elves.
Yeah. Did you find them?
Not really, but we saw piles of rocks, which kind of represent where they live, and they build roads around them. It's wonderful. One of my favourite places in the world, I would say, is Iceland, actually. Really. But anyway, but then Don left, and there was another guy, Neil Stevenson, became the editor at that period, and they had this. They wanted to kind of reflect what was going on in Ibiza. So it was actually, I think it was like 1998.
Okay.
Which was
okay. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. And so they asked if I'd go out. Neil said, would you like go out there with the journalist? And so I went out with the journalist, and after about 2 days, journalist disappeared. And
of course he did.
To this day, I've never actually seen him ever.
Fantastic. That is such an Ibiza story.
So the thing is, so I was like, what's going on? I mean, what shall I do? So I contacted Neil, and I was like, well, what do you want? And so he said, right, I'm going to come out. So he came out with his girlfriend, and they were like, oh, do you know what? Why don't you just stay out for a bit and just carry on shooting as much as you can? And so I was like, okay. So the trip that was meant to be something like 5 days turned into about 15 days or something. And I came back, and I'd taken a particular camera out there as well, actually, which was a medium format camera. So the photographs that I was getting were unlike anyone else that was there, because they were high colour, great quality, and you could use them as like big pictures, where in clubs as well as wherever. But I looked at it in terms of thinking of it in a documentary sense, rather than just going, I'm a club photographer, I'm just going to go to a club.
Yeah.
It's like, is it about this thing? And there was no. Basically, Neil said, stay out there, shoot as much as you can. And so I did that, but that's a hard brief, because there's no limit to it. It's not like going, oh, meet so and so there at 2 o'clock, and then by 3 you're finished. You're just gonna, and there's stuff in Ibiza going on 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I was learning what was going on, and so so basically, I came back, and they were like, whoa, and they made a 30-page feature out of those photos. They actually won awards, and there's a guy called Mark Ellen, who's a very big publishing guy. He used to be, a reporter, journalist as well.
Yeah.
And him and Neil sort of got together on that, and they won sort of awards for that particular publication. And then they were like, right, okay, we want you to go back. Do you want to go back? And so I was like, yeah, okay. And so I just kept going back and special missions, but with hard. Maybe there was like, okay, could you go for a week? But there's one shoot, if you could go to Pike's and photograph Tony Pike.
Yeah.
Okay, but then the rest of it, just get as much as you can. And so that's what I did.
And I guess in those times you weren't back. I don't know. Back then, I guess you weren't going back to your accommodation, your hotel or your villa or whatever, and doing what people would do now. Getting the MacBook out, starting to cull the ones you don't like and edit. Did you not know what you'd taken until you got home, other than look on the
exactly. The thing was, I was paranoid as well, because I had a lot of film, and I was thinking, do I really want to leave this? Because I wasn't like living it up luxury style. I was in sort of an apartment maybe, but like, I don't want to. What if I come back and it's all missing?
Yeah.
And it's medium format, so it's rolls of film that are like this big, like that. And so I was just keeping them in the boot of the car. Not a good idea.
No, that's not a great idea in Ibiza either.
Yeah, but also, I was paranoid about things like coming through X-ray machines.
Yeah.
With it, if I just come back and it's all wiped or it's got a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only had it once where there was like this repetitive X-ray mark on some film.
Yeah.
That time, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't. When you don't know, you're like, oh my god, what if it all gets damaged? But yeah, I was
What was the craziest? I mean, because you were there for the whole Manumission thing, and Manumission Hotel, when I guess all people like Derek Delarge were there, and it was an ex-brothel and all of that kind of stuff, and Manumission were up to all of their antics. And that's when there was people were having a good time. Let's just leave it at that. What was the absolute maddest thing you saw that you can remember?
Wow. What?
What did she say?
Bunting. No, that was another. That was Mouse, wasn't it?
No, that was Claire.
Oh, I can't. Do you know what? I've got a very bad memory, but Amanda in the other room is reminding me of something that Claire did with some bunting.
Oh, right.
From
Claire
a mentionable
Manumission.
place.
Yeah.
But the Manumission Motel was definitely a place of. It was wild. I mean, I think it used to be a brothel.
Yeah.
And then
it
was on the crossroads
Someone
to
told me.
Jesus. So they would say on the cross of Jesus, and it was a wild place. And so, I mean, it's like Jay Jagger there doing karaoke on stage. I think literally it's just like a matter of fact sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what's the weirdest? Some of the weirdest stuff is when, I wanted to photograph Manumission. Manumission was the biggest nightclub in the world, 10,000 people every Monday night. Huge amount of people. I wanted to take an aerial view of that, and so I thought it'd be great to get up on top of the gantry, photograph down. But it's pretty dangerous. It's like very dark up there. It's high, health and safety, potential nightmare. And so they were like, oh, it's all right. We'll get 24-hour Dave to take you up there. But you mustn't come. Once he takes you up there, you mustn't come down on your own. He'll come and get you. Not come down. And I was like, okay, all right. So I got up there, and I was like, oh blimey, okay. But I didn't have a watch on, and Happy Mondays were playing that night on stage, and I was like, it's been a while.
I'm stuck up here.
To get to this place, it was literally where they would put the cables. It wasn't really even a walkway. It was not a proper, or lit walkway. And so I was like, oh my God, this is pretty dodgy. I've got to try and make my own way back. So bit by bit, I managed to get Alpha there. And then, of course, Dave had totally forgotten all about me.
Well, he disappeared with your journalist friend, didn't he?
I mean, he was a real character. There's so many characters that were in a bit. Sadly, 24-hour Dave isn't with us anymore. There's so many characters out there. I mean, there's just mad stuff. But at any given time, something odd could happen. There's whole lists of it, really, in my mind.
Yeah. It's too big a question again, isn't it?
No, but one time I was in space, and this guy just tried to wrestle the camera out my hand. And he thought I was photographing him. I was photographing Sonic and Alfredo down the bar. And he was like, no, you're trying to photograph me. And I was like, no, calm down. And so Sonic came over, calmed him down.
God.
She's like, and then consequently over that trip, I saw that guy so many times, and by the end of that, he had a broken leg. It was crazy guy.
So he was just offering everybody out, whether they had a camera or anything.
Potentially, who knows what he was doing in that club? I don't know. Saying anything, but I suspect that he thought I was photographing him. Reasons or something.
He sounded like he was getting a bit paranoid. Yeah.
But by the end of it, he thought he was my best mate.
Yeah. Followed you home.
Go away. We can hang out now.
Brilliant. All right. Fantastic. So we're gonna have to wrap up now. And one of the things because keeping on the theme of 3 is a magic number, so we've had 3 bits of art really from you. We've had the 2 tracks, which are amazing, and we've had the picture by Danny Lyon. So we've done our 3 there, and the final bit of the interview is 3 bits of advice that you can give, and let's say 3 bits of advice for young people starting out, might not be sure whether to do something or not, but 3 bits of advice to get into the world of creativity, photography, music, just generally,
Yeah. Well, I thought this was an important question, so I've actually written it down.
Okay.
I thought, because I think first and foremost, you've got to try and be true to yourself. So listen to yourself, because, you're using the medium to express yourself. That's in an ideal sense, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Of course, some people are not like that. Some people are, they just literally do what is asked of them. But ideally, that's not what the relationship is. It's you expressing yourself and getting involved in things that you're interested in,
Yeah.
and that is what will keep you the long haul, the long term, because otherwise, life should be a long situation. It should be, you're thinking of it as a long trajectory, and you want to try and work it out so you're doing what you want to do, I think. So that's the first bit of advice.
Yeah, good one.
Find yourself. The second one, you've got to work hard. You've got to work hard. It's not going to be easy. Some people, they get good connections. It is easy to a point. Sometimes, if it's not hard as well, so some people, if they get it easy, then they kind of peter out because they get lost and they don't know how to then take it any further. It's going to be, it should be hard as well. It sounds weird saying that, but
no, it makes total sense. Yeah,
you've got to try and push forward. And the final one is you have to dare to be different, because that will make the difference. Because you want to stand out from other people. You as a unique person will do that, but you've got to then, in some sort of way, present that to people as a kind of fresh and new thing.
Yeah.
Or you can slip into a kind of more mechanical operation. So that's not to in any way diminish anyone at all, because there is a place for everything. But for me, being like an automaton is not what it's about. No. That's just not. I'm not interested in it. I don't just be like the teapot person who photographs the teapot there every day. It has to be just like that because it's got to go into that. I don't want to do that, and so that's something different to the photography that I do and I aspire to do in the future as well. So I think that's it. So, and then that difference can even be in a small individual sense as well. So whenever you go somewhere, if you're doing something, think, well, how can I make this different to what is obvious? Yeah. Thinking about it is the thing that will give you the edge.
The edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are three really, really good bits of advice. So, thanks for that. And so, just to wrap up, what have you got coming up next, Dean? Even though we're,
well,
housebound, but, what's coming up? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, well, there's some editorial things that, as I say, we shot beforehand that are going to be coming out. So keep an eye on things like The Observer, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it. That's fine.
There's an exhibition that we were going to present before all the lockdown thing happened, called All Kinds of Naughty, that is a collective of 20 different artists, all different disciplines, some photographers, sculptors, milliners, writers, all reflecting on Ian Dury and his life and lyrics.
Oh, amazing.
We're going to present that in 5 different galleries. That's all been shelved till next year. But we're going to bring a book out for that. So I'll put it on my socials and all that sort of stuff. Okay. But yeah, so that's All Kinds of Naughty. I'm thinking about, what's going to happen when we unscrew the hatch and stick our heads out. Even at the moment, just going to the shop's a big major deal. But once we go, what's it going to be like? What's the landscape? To learn, we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to think about things, but not lose ourselves within that. And I have to say, it does annoy me sometimes about the kind of things of like, people are telling you you've got to do this or got to do that. You know, I'm sort of doing that now. I don't mean to.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say there's other ways. Just, you know, even if people hate what I'm saying, for example, it will make them think about something. And so
definitely.
So I don't want to be all sort of like preachy and stuff. And I'm not one of these people that does National Beard Day or anything like that. I'm you know, only child. So through that thing. But yeah, I'm thinking, well, it will be interesting to see what happens once we emerge.
Yeah, indeed.
And things will change. Everything will change.
Indeed, they will. So, Dean, on that note, it was really great to talk to you. Really interesting interview. Thanks for being our guest. And
can I just say a couple of...
Absolutely, far away.
I just definitely love to thank all the NHS people and all that sort of
yes,
stuff.
Yes, likewise, yeah.
You know, I know everyone says it, but I'm just saying all the people in the NHS, all those key workers, all the people working food shops, corner shops, all those sort of people. But also, not forgetting, people who have to make these big old decisions. It's very easy for us to kind of go, oh, well, you know, we're just going to do what the thing is. But to make those decisions, I mean...
Front line.
Do you know what I mean? So I've got to say, there's a lot of thanks to everyone out there, and also it is crazy times, and just hope that, you know, out of it all comes something in some sort of way positive.
I'll drink to that. Brilliant, Dean. It's great to talk to you.
You too.
And we'll speak soon.
See ya, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Dean. Bye.
No more, no less. That's a magic number.